My wife slept with a pastor and smirked while saying, "I'm pregnant, but the baby isn't yours." Then she asked for money. I didn't say a word. Instead, I made one move that changed everything forever. Her name's Ratch, at least that's what I'll call her here. For the first 3 years of our marriage, I honestly believed we had something solid. Not perfect, but solid. We met back in college. She was a total knockout and, surprisingly, she seemed genuinely interested in me, not just out for the party scene like most people around us. I was buried in business courses, trying to lay the groundwork for a real future, and she was studying education. Right from the start, we clicked. After we graduated, I dove straight into building my own consulting firm. Those first couple of years were brutal, 80-hour work weeks, constant stress, barely scraping by just to cover rent. Through it all, Ratch was incredible back then anyway. She'd show up with energy drinks at 2 in the morning while I was still staring at code, or talk me down after a client ghosted me. She really was my biggest cheerleader. At one point, she even offered to hit pause on her teaching career so she could support me full-time while I chased this dream. I remember thinking how selfless that was, how lucky I was to have someone so committed. But looking back now, man, that should have been a warning sign, clear as day. Once my business finally turned a corner and started pulling in good money, we upgraded our life. We bought a beautiful home in a decent neighborhood, things were looking up. That's when Ratch got heavily involved with this nearby church, like, way too involved. She started running women's groups, throwing herself into every charity event, filling her Instagram feed with scripture and family values hashtags. Constantly talking about marriage like it was sacred. But by year 4, something shifted. It was subtle at first, tiny changes. She stopped showing interest in my day. Conversations that used to come naturally now felt forced, like she was reciting lines from a script instead of actually being present. I'd ask her simple stuff, how was Bible study? Who was there? And she'd brush me off with vague, one-word answers like she couldn't wait to change the subject. What really raised my eyebrows, though, was how suddenly she got curious about our finances, my finances. Before, she was happy just using the credit cards. Never really asked questions about the business. Then out of nowhere she's like, how much did we make last quarter? Or what's the company worth now? And do we have any hidden assets? I figured maybe she just wanted to be more involved, but then I caught her taking pictures of my financial statements. One night, I found her going through my office, flipping through files when she thought I was asleep. When I asked, she said she was just organizing, but I literally saw her scanning docs with her phone. That's when I knew something was off. Slowly but surely, the tension kept building. Her schedule started getting weird too, late nights, last-minute weekend trips that didn't make much sense. She'd leave in one outfit and come home in a completely different one, saying she spilled something. I tried to bring it up gently one night, mentioned how distant she'd become, how it felt like we barely existed in the same space anymore. She just rolled her eyes. "You're imagining things," she said. Her voice was flat and she wouldn't even make eye contact. Around the time, she got super protective of her phone. Started buying new clothes, really sexy ones, but I never saw her wearing them around me. Then the stories stopped lining up. She'd talk about dinners in cities we hadn't visited, show receipts for a single hotel room when she said 4 friends went. I didn't want to believe it. Thought maybe I was just tired, overthinking from all the hours I was pulling at work. But one night, she came home later than usual. Hair a bit messy, makeup kind of smeared. And there was this faint scent on her, sharp and unfamiliar, like some cologne I'd never bought. I kept my voice calm and asked, "Long night?" She barely looked at me, just kicked off her shoes and said, "Yeah." Bible study ran long, then we grabbed a bite. You know how it is. Except I didn't know. Bible study used to wrap by 8. She was strolling in after midnight like it was nothing. I said, "You smell like someone else's cologne." Her body language changed instantly, defensive, not guilty. She crossed her arms and snapped, "Oh, so now you care? Maybe if you weren't always glued to your office, you'd have a clue what's happening in my life." That wasn't an answer, it was a diversion. And it landed exactly the way she wanted, shifting the blame onto me. I could have called her out right then, but I didn't. I already knew how that would go. She'd cry, spin the whole thing to make it about how I neglected her. I wasn't about to let her rewrite the story. So instead, I started playing it smart. I pulled up credit card statements, checked location history on her iPad. By the way, pro tip, women never log out of their accounts. Sure enough, every Monday and Friday, she was spending 2 to 3 hours at the same apartment complex across town. One Thursday, I left work early, parked across from the complex, and waited. Right on time, 1:30 p.m. sharp arrival, Rat showed up. 10 minutes later, some tall gym rat with a tribal tattoo on his arm pulled up beside her. Total stereotype. I snapped photos of them walking in together, hands on each other, all cozy. I sat there in my car, watching the woman I built a whole life with walk into another man's place like she belonged there. That same spark she used to have with me? She gave it to him. My blood was boiling. Everything in me wanted to kick down the door, but I held back. Rage is loud. Revenge? That's silent. 2 hours later, they came out. I took more pictures, watched them kiss like they didn't have a care in the world. In that moment, something inside me just went cold. No more doubt. The woman I married no longer existed. His name was Logan. I found that out from her texts when she left her phone out before a shower one night. Turns out he was a youth pastor at her church. Yeah, the irony is damn near poetic. I didn't confront her right away. I started collecting evidence, screenshots of messages, more photos, hotel receipts I found in her purse. I even recorded a call where she told Logan she was leaving me soon so they could be together. But what stung the most wasn't just the cheating. It was realizing how long she'd been laying the groundwork to destroy me. I went through Ratch's messages with Logan, and honestly, the stuff I saw in there made my stomach turn. This wasn't some heat-of-the-moment fling, it was a calculated operation. She'd been plotting this for months. "I'm just waiting for the right timing," she texted him. "He's too buried in work to notice anything." Another message, "Once I file, I'll go for alimony. He won't even see it coming." She wasn't just preparing to walk out on me, she was plotting to have me finance her fresh start with this clown. Laughing with him over texts about how she'd land softly while I got left in the dirt. That's when I made up my mind. She wasn't just leaving me, I was going to make damn sure she left empty-handed. I called up my business accountant one evening and kept the conversation light. "Thinking about restructuring some things," I said. "Nothing major. But over the next few weeks, I made moves, real, strategic ones. I prepaid the office lease for a full year, knocked out some business loans early, and adjusted my income so that more money stayed within the company instead of coming to me personally. I also invested in equipment I didn't technically need yet but would use down the road. To anyone looking from the outside, it just looked like a business managing its cash flow, nothing shady, just standard operation. On paper, though, I was suddenly a lot less liquid. Meanwhile, I opened a personal account at a completely different bank. I started moving over small amounts here and there, nothing big enough to raise eyebrows, but enough to build a safety net Ratch couldn't touch. Everything was legal, clean, documented. I wasn't hiding money, I was protecting what was mine. I was making sure she didn't walk off with more than she earned. And then, out of nowhere, she actually did me a favor. On a random Tuesday, she went ahead and lit the whole damn bridge on fire herself. I came home from work and there she was, parked on the couch with the smug, fake sweet look on her face. "Mike," she said, voice all syrupy, "we need to talk." I already knew what was coming. Still, I played dumb. "Yeah? What's up?" "I'm pregnant." We hadn't touched each other in months. So unless the second coming was happening in our living room, I knew that kid wasn't mine. Before I could even get a word out, she twisted the knife. "But it's not yours. I've been seeing someone else. I want a divorce." She said it like she was ordering coffee, no guilt, no emotion. 5 years of marriage, and she tossed it like it meant nothing. My hands clenched without me realizing it. I could feel heat rising up my neck. Everything in me wanted to explode, to toss all the evidence I had in her face and make her squirm. But then it hit me, this was exactly what I needed. She had no idea I'd already pieced everything together. No clue I'd been quietly watching her play her little game. She thought she was holding the cards. I let a smirk spread across my face. "I see." That threw her. She'd been expecting yelling, begging, maybe a dramatic monologue. Instead, I was just calm, too calm. She doubled down, trying to regain control. "And just so you know, you'll still be paying alimony. I gave up my career for you, so you owe me." I locked eyes with her. "Ratch," I said slowly, "did you really think I didn't know about Logan?" I watched the color drain from her face like a faucet got turned off. I let out a quiet laugh. "Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? 2, maybe 3 hours. Same apartment building. Same damn parking spot. You couldn't even bother to switch it up. You actually thought I was that clueless." Her jaw clenched. I don't know what you're talking about." I leaned back, stretching my arms across the couch like I had all day. "Oh, come on. Bible study running late? That must be one hell of a sermon if it needs hotel rooms and lingerie. And Logan? Great choice, really. A youth pastor banging a married woman. I wonder how his congregation would feel about their golden boy spreading the good word between the sheets." Now she was starting to crack. Her eyes darted around like she was looking for the exits. "How long were you planning this, Ratch?" I asked, tilting my head. "Waiting for the perfect time to clean me out and disappear with your new man? What was it you said in that message? He won't see it coming." She looked like a fish gasping for breath. Mouth opening and closing, but nothing coming out. I stood up slowly. Let me be crystal clear. You are not walking away from this with the upper hand. You're not taking a single damn thing from me that I don't choose to give you. She tried to recover, throwing on that fake confidence like it still worked. It's the law, Mike. You can fight all you want, but you'll lose. I smiled, cool, smug, just enough to twist the knife back. If you say so. She thought she dropped the hammer. Really, she just handed me a gift. I didn't need to blow anything up, she did it for me. All I had to do was sit back and let her think she was ahead while I was already playing a completely different game. The weeks that followed were strange. Ratch moved out fast, straight into Logan's apartment like it was some upgrade. She filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Which, in plain English, meant I want to sleep around and not feel bad about it. I started lawyer shopping. The first 3 I met might as well have read from a script. No-fault divorce state, they kept repeating like it was gospel. Apparently, the fact that my wife got knocked up by a youth pastor didn't mean jack in court. Eventually, I found an attorney I'll call Derek. He didn't sugarcoat anything. Look, man, he said straight up. You're probably gonna owe her something. But we can try to limit the damage. When I showed him my financials, he raised an eyebrow. Interesting timing on these business expenses, he said, giving me a look. He didn't say much else, legally he couldn't. But the way he nodded told me he understood exactly what I'd done. Well, this might help reduce the alimony calculation, he added. But even here, you're still looking at a decent payout. That's when my mind started churning. Sure, the court didn't care about her affair, but her church friends? The people who practically worshipped her for her values? Yeah, they might have a different opinion. Still, I kept my cool through the legal stuff. Let her think she was ahead. Gave her just enough rope. When the court date rolled around, it felt surreal. I showed up sharp in my best suit. Ratch walked in with her high-end lawyer, dressed like she was auditioning for a spot on some wholesome family reality show, modest outfit, soft makeup, trying to sell herself as a wronged, innocent wife. I had to stop myself from laughing. The whole performance was so over the top, it was almost laughable. Ratch sat there in her modest church lady costume, playing the part of the wounded housewife. The judge looked like he wanted to be anywhere else before we even got started. Her lawyer kicked things off with this dramatic sob story. Claimed she gave up a promising career to support me, handled the house while I chased my business dreams, and that now she deserved to be compensated for her sacrifices. Real Oscar-worthy stuff. Then it was our turn. My lawyer stood up and laid everything out, the cheating, the pregnancy, the fact she was already shacked up with another guy. We had receipts, literally and figuratively. Her lawyer shot to his feet like he'd been waiting for that moment. Your Honor, let's remember that we are in a no-fault state, he said with a smug little smile, like those 5 words wiped away everything she'd done. He kept going. While my client deeply regrets that the marriage ended, the law is clear: marital misconduct is not a factor in determining spousal support. That was it. That was all they needed. Just hearing how casually the law brushed off her betrayal made my blood boil. She cheated. She lied. She got pregnant by another man. And I was still the one expected to foot the bill? My attorney tried to fight back, made it crystal clear that this wasn't just a woman leaving a marriage. She was plotting a soft financial landing while screwing around behind my back. He presented every shred of evidence again, trying to show how calculated it all was. The judge just sat there, half listening, waiting for us to finish. Then he cleared his throat and delivered the ruling. While the court acknowledges Mr. Walker's concerns regarding his wife's infidelity, the law in this state is clear. Spousal misconduct is not a factor in determining alimony. Given Mrs. Walker's financial dependence during the marriage and her current lack of employment, the court finds she is entitled to spousal support. He banged the gavel like he was declaring last call at a bar. Mr. Walker will pay $3,200 a month for a period of 3 years, or until Mrs. Walker remarries, for $1,500 a month for 3 years, to the woman who cheated on me and was carrying someone else's child. I honestly thought I was in the twilight zone, but I kept a straight face. My earlier financial prep had done just enough. If I hadn't made those moves, I'd be on the hook for closer to $6,000 a month. So while it still stung, I took the small win. The best part? Ratch and her fancy lawyer had no clue. No idea that I had money tucked away. No idea that my business was perfectly positioned to rebound as soon as this mess was behind me. As we walked out of the courtroom, Ratch leaned in just enough for me to hear her whisper to Logan, He was waiting near the exit. "Told you," she said, smug as ever. "Should have just agreed to my terms from the beginning." Then she had the nerve to pull out her phone and call him. Right there in front of me. "Baby, it's done. We won," she giggled. "I told you the judge wouldn't care about the other stuff." I didn't say a word. Just watched her strut off like she'd pulled off the perfect heist. But the truth? That was just the first inning. The game was far from over. I sent the first alimony payment right on schedule. No complaints. No snark. Just a professional email. "Payment sent. Please confirm receipt." Ratch didn't know what to make of it. She probably expected me to rage, to drag my feet, maybe skip payments and give her more ammo. Instead, I played the perfect ex-husband. Calm, punctual, not bitter, not hostile. She had no idea what was coming. See, Ratch wasn't just a churchgoer. She was the churchgoer. Grace Fellowship Church loved her. She led the women's ministry, ran marriage retreats, stood on stage talking about God's design for marriage. Her dad was a deacon. Her mom ran Sunday school. The whole family had this shiny Christian rep going. And I knew exactly how fast that image would collapse once the truth came out. I'd been gathering everything. DNA test results proving the baby wasn't mine. Time-stamped photos of her sneaking into Logan's place. Screenshots of their dirty texts. Hotel receipts. And best of all, an audio recording of her trash-talking her church friends. Calling them uptight prudes. That one was gold. I bundled everything into a clean, professional folder. Added a formal letter addressed to the church elders. To the elders of Grace Fellowship Church. I regret having to bring this to your attention, but as a fellow believer, I feel it is my responsibility. My former wife, Rachel Brooks, who currently leads several ministries in your congregation, has been engaging in behavior that directly contradicts the values your church upholds. This includes a months-long extramarital affair resulting in a pregnancy confirmed not to be mine. She is now cohabiting with this man while collecting substantial alimony from me. This is not shared out of spite, but out of concern for the integrity of your ministry. Respectfully, Michael Walker. I dropped it off early Sunday morning. No one around, just me and that little manila envelope. Then I went home, made some coffee, and waited. That Sunday, my phone blew up. Messages from old church friends started pouring in. "Dude, what did you do? Pastor just called an emergency elder meeting. Ratch is losing it." I grinned, silenced my phone, and went back to sleep like a baby. Best nap I've had in years. Later that day, Ratch left a voicemail. She was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You absolute piece of garbage. How dare you do this to me? They kicked me out of women's ministry. My dad won't even talk to me. You've ruined everything." I deleted it without responding. No need to invite that kind of energy back into my life. The messages kept coming all week, each one more unhinged than the last. Her church friends stopped responding to her. Her parents said they were praying over the situation, which, in church speak, means we're ashamed but don't want to say it outright. The Christian school where she volunteered asked her to take a break. Even Logan started pulling back. He hadn't signed up for this much baggage. He thought he was getting some hot church wife with a steady income and moral high ground. Instead, he got a disgraced woman with a kid on the way and a reputation in flames. By Friday, he'd kicked her out of his apartment. So much for soulmates, huh? About a week after I delivered my little gift to the church, Ratch got summoned to a disciplinary hearing with the church elders. I know because she called me sobbing desperate. "Mike, please," she cried. "They're going to discipline me publicly. Do you know what that means? They're going to announce it to the whole congregation. Everyone will know." I just stared at the phone, then calmly said, "They already do, Ratch. That's the thing about church gossip, it spreads faster than a wildfire in a drought." Ratch was still clinging to denial. "My dad might lose his position over this," she sniffled. "My family's been part of Harvest for 3 generations. I didn't even blink. Yeah? Should have thought of that before you started sleeping with the youth pastor." She went quiet for a beat. Then, in this tiny voice, she said, "He's not talking to me anymore." "Who, your dad?" "No," she whispered. "Logan." I actually laughed. Couldn't help it. "So your soulmate jumped ship the second it got messy?" "Wow." Shocked. I have nowhere to go, Mike, she said, her voice cracking. My parents won't let me stay with them. None of my friends will even return my calls. Sounds like a you problem. She paused, then asked the most ridiculous question I'd heard in a long time. Can I come home? Just for a while, until I figure something out. I stared at my phone in disbelief. The nerve. Ratch, it's not your home anymore. You gave that up the moment you decided to cheat. She started crying again. Big, loud, theatrical sobs like something out of a soap opera. What am I supposed to do? She wailed. I didn't flinch. Get a hotel. You've got alimony money now. Figure it out. Then I hung up. Cold? Maybe. But after everything she'd done, my tank for sympathy was bone dry. That Thursday night, the church held her formal disciplinary hearing. By Thursday morning, the news had reached every corner of the community. She'd been officially labeled an adulteress, kicked out of all church rolls. The pastor preached a whole sermon about the sanctity of marriage and the consequences of sin. He never mentioned her name, but come on, everyone knew exactly who he meant. Her parents stepped down from church leadership, saying they needed time to reflect. Her sister postponed her wedding, which was supposed to be at harvest. The whole family got caught in the blast radius. And Logan? He filed for a transfer to a different church in another state. Packed up and left Ratch behind, pregnant, disgraced, and very much alone. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. The same community she built her entire identity around had taken care of everything for me. That's the thing about tight-knit religious circles, everything's connected. Her fall from grace triggered a chain reaction I couldn't have planned better if I tried. First, the private Christian school where she worked part-time suddenly had budget cuts. Her job was one of the first to go. The principal couldn't even look her in the eye when he told her. Then the volunteer work started drying up. The Crisis Pregnancy Center said her current circumstances made her a poor example. The charity where she organized drives said they were restructuring. Bit by bit, every single role that gave her purpose vanished. And I kept paying that alimony check each month on time, no fuss, like clockwork. 3 weeks after the church bombshell, I got a text from one of our old neighbors. Hey, not sure if you've heard, but Ratch is living in her car. Walmart parking lot. Far end. I didn't respond. But later that night, I drove by just to see for myself. Sure enough, there was her beat-up Honda parked way in the back, tucked near the trees. I could see her inside, hunched over, her phone lighting up her face. The next day, she called me again. This time, her voice was hollow. No drama, no tears, just worn out. I lost my job, she said. I stayed quiet. The baby's due in 5 months. No one will hire me like this. My parents still won't talk to me. Still, I said nothing. After a pause, she added, I've been sleeping in my car. I can't afford both a car payment and rent on the alimony alone. I shrugged. Sounds like poor financial planning. She let out a sharp breath. Is this what you wanted? To see me completely destroyed? I thought about it. Yeah, I said. Pretty much. Her voice cracked. I was stupid. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you. I cut her off. I don't care. She broke down again, gasping through a sob. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I smirked. Cool. Good luck with your new life. That was when I decided it was time to play my final card. Time to end this whole saga on my terms. Actually, I said, voice calm like I was talking about lunch plans, I might have a solution that works for both of us. She perked up immediately. I could practically hear her straighten up. What kind of solution? I'm getting tired of writing these monthly checks, I said casually. And my business is expanding. I'm looking at opening an office in Singapore. Might be moving out there for a while. What does that have to do with me? Well, I said, keeping it vague, international alimony enforcement is complicated. And I've got a new lawyer who thinks we might have grounds to revisit the whole settlement, some interesting legal angles. It was total BS. But Ratch had no way of knowing that and no room to challenge it. What are you saying? I'm saying I'd like to buy you out. One lump sum instead of monthly alimony for the next 3 years. She went quiet. I could feel the desperation through the phone. How much, she finally asked. 55 grand, I said. Cash. Tax-free. You sign a document releasing me from all future alimony and the money's yours today. She had no idea I could swing that without even blinking. The way I'd managed my finances early on left me with plenty of untouched cash. 90 grand was less than half of what I would have owed her over 3 years. A massive discount. But to someone living in a parking lot, broke and pregnant, it probably sounded like salvation. I don't know, she stammered. My lawyer said. Your lawyer isn't sleeping in a Walmart lot, I cut in. And this offer expires in 24 hours. After that, I filed to reopen the case. You get nothing while we fight it out for the next year or two. Dead silence on the line. I could hear her brain working overtime. Can I think about it? You've got until this time tomorrow, I said. Then I moved forward. Click. She called back 2 hours later. I'll take it, she said quietly. Smart choice, I replied. Paperwork will be ready in the morning. Meet me at my lawyer's office at 9 a.m. There was a pause. Then, Mike, thank you. I almost laughed. Don't thank me, wretch. This isn't mercy. It's business. The next morning, she showed up looking like she'd been run over by life itself, same clothes I saw her wearing in the car, hair a mess, eyes dark and sunken. She looked like someone who'd finally hit bottom. My lawyer had everything ready. Full release of all future alimony in exchange for a one-time payout. I already had the cashier's check in hand. Ratch barely skimmed the paperwork before signing it. She looked exhausted, defeated in that quiet, empty kind of way. When my lawyer slid the cashier's check across the table, her hands actually shook as she picked it up. So, that's it, she asked, voice barely above a whisper. We're done. I nodded. Completely done. And I never want to hear from you again. She looked like she wanted to say something, maybe offer another half-baked apology, but in the end, she just nodded, turned, and walked out without another word. As the door clicked shut behind her, my lawyer shook his head. You know, he said, most guys in your position wouldn't have given her a dime. I looked at him and said it was worth 90 grand to never see her face again. And I meant it. The money wasn't breaking me. The business was fine. But those monthly payments? They were a constant reminder of how she betrayed me, and getting rid of that monthly reminder felt like cutting a weight off my chest. Now I was untethered. Clean break. Done. And I knew Ratch. She'd blow through the check like it was monopoly money. 6 months tops. No alimony, no job, no support system left. Just her and the consequences she brought on herself. Meanwhile, I was free to focus on building my empire, living my life without her shadow over it. About 6 months later, I ran into her. Total coincidence, just a random stop at a gas station on my way to a client meeting. She looked rough. Real rough. Still pregnant, or maybe pregnant again, I didn't ask, didn't care. She was driving this old, beat-up Honda Civic instead of the nice SUV she had during our marriage. I was fueling up my new BMW when she spotted me. She froze like a deer in headlights. I nodded. Just being civil. She walked over slowly, hesitating with every step. There was this weird silence hanging in the air. Then she finally said, "How are you?" I shrugged. "Business is good. Life's good." She nodded, eyes on the ground. That's good." More awkward silence. Then she blurted out, "The money's gone." I didn't react. I had to pay off some debt, then rent, food, it's all gone now. I just looked at her. "Not my problem." "I know," she said quietly. I don't even know why I'm telling you." I finished pumping gas. "Well, good luck with everything." I started to get back in the car when she stopped me. "I'm sorry, Mike. For everything. I really am." I looked at her for a long second. And yeah, I thought I'd feel some kind of satisfaction seeing her like that. But truth? Not really. I didn't feel bad either. Just nothing. Too little, too late, wretch. Then I got in my car and drove off. Haven't seen her since. Things for me? They've been solid. A few months later, I met someone, an incredible woman. Smart, driven, owns her own marketing agency. Works hard, plays hard, and most importantly, she doesn't play games. We moved in together about 3 months ago. No rush on marriage this time. Once bitten, twice shy and all that. But honestly, for the first time in a long while, I can actually see it happening someday. She's the real deal. I try to stay out of Ratch's business now. But this town's not that big, and people talk. Plus, we still have a few mutual acquaintances who drop updates whether I ask or not. That 90 grand? Gone in less than 4 months. She used some to wipe out credit card debt I didn't even know existed, got herself a modest apartment, and then tried to keep up her old lifestyle like nothing had changed. She never learned how to budget. Never learned how to live within her means. She ended up having the baby, a boy. Logan's name is on the birth certificate, so legally he's the one on the hook for child support. But from what I hear, he's been dodging payments and pretending none of this ever happened. He moved to Ohio, probably running from the mess he helped make. Apparently, his commitment to youth ministry doesn't extend to fatherhood. Shocking. Ratch tried to get back into teaching, but her name carried too much baggage. No Christian school would even look at her. Public schools wanted recent experience, which she didn't have. Last I heard, she's working at some call center, scraping by on barely more than minimum wage. But the real kicker? Her family. They finally forgave her after about 8 months of silence, but things never went back to normal. They help with the baby here and there, but there's always a comment, some reminder about consequences and choices. Her sister keeps her distance. Doesn't want Ratch's mess interfering with her own image at the church. Speaking of church, Ratch tried to rejoin the community. Didn't go well? They let her sit in on services, sure, but she's banned from leadership. No women's ministry, no event planning, no stage time. She shows up, sits in the back, and slips out the moment the final prayer ends. That old social status she held so tightly? Gone. And here's the real twist. Word got back to me through a mutual friend that Ratch has been telling people she made a mistake. That she should have tried to fix her marriage. Should have worked things out. Too late, Ratch. As for me, I've never been better. Business is booming, my relationship is strong, and I've been doing all the things I put off for years. I got my pilot's license. Took up mountain biking. Started learning guitar. It's like I finally got my life back and then some. Funny how the worst thing that ever happened to you can sometimes set you up for your best life. You just have to be willing to burn the bridges that need burning and never look back. I've got better things to focus on. Oh, and one last bit of advice to anyone dealing with something like this. Document everything. Take screenshots. Save messages. Gather receipts. It might not hold weight in court, especially in no-fault states, but information is power. And sometimes power is all you've got. Peace out.